Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Live well, laugh often, love much. Join our online connection circles. Be empowered in our virtual live events. Be a guest on our podcast shows. Hire us or be hired for speaking engagements. Enhance hope, health, and healing in your lives. Creating global connections. The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. The Connection Show, creating hope, health, and healing in 2021, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today from Michigan is my friend Robert Carlisle. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Hey, Jill. How you been?
Awesome. Awesome, Robert. Thank you for joining us. I would love the audience, Robert, to know a little bit about you. So I'm going to read your bio to them. So Robert Carlisle served in the United States Army as an Airborne Ranger Jump Master and toured with 1st Special Forces and 82 Airborne with over 60 parachute jumps. He has over 20 years in food service as an Army dining facility line supervisor. Robert then went into sales selling dispensed beverages and then acquired a full-scale Italian restaurant in Hawaii that he owned. His passion has always been serving others and making people happy by way of excellent customer service and care. Robert is an expert in video production, Bluetooth proximity marketing, virtual reality world, avatar design, and in building his digital marketing business. He is the owner of Digital Business International. Robert wants to engage more influential decision makers and thought leaders in the network marketing arenas and advocate the best virtual reality business solutions. His commitment and drive are to bring more dignity within true to life scenarios and use virtual reality with good intentions. He is focused on creating the gold standard for virtual reality ready businesses. He has created proprietary tools to help businesses duplicate and scale quickly and have fun at the same time. Robert is also known as DNA Elite in the digital world because he believes that unlocking the secrets of your health starts with your DNA. So those were a couple of tongue twisters for me.
All good.
All good.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Well, thank you. Well, Robert, on the Connection Show, I really believe that there is so much importance today, not only in your virtual reality, but utilizing story that leads us when we get into virtual reality in sharing story and living in a mode that others get to know us and can connect with us more. So what I love doing on the Connection Show is taking story and connecting it back. So if you're willing, if you could share with the audience a little bit about what it was like for you growing up, where you grew up, and what your home life was like. And with that, how it led you down the path of the different things you did, serving the country and the things you've done throughout your life.
Well, first off, thank you for that introduction. That's my whole life right there. How I grew up or where I grew up, and I grew up in a Christian family, and we're way out in the countryside. Grew up in the snow. We had more snow than we had summer. I grew up with a brother and a sister. An older brother and a younger sister, not too younger than me, but my parents are very, they like the outdoors, right? So we used to do a lot of camping in the summertime. For us when we were kids, we really had to figure out things to entertain us, right? So we were mostly outside when we could be. So, digging in the sand, listening to nature. Our neighbors were actually right close by us, but we were like 20 miles apart from any other neighbors that were out there. So, when you're in that type of environment, you're almost like family with the neighbors, right? Because there's nobody else, closer to you to play with. So we did live in the city for a couple of years, and then my parents just said, you know what, they want to be out, left alone. They want it nice and quiet. So I would say my childhood was very unique. You had to be very inventive with your imagination. I would say that's, I'm kind of like all over the place on that, but it was a
Yeah.
very unique childhood. And when it came time for me to, think about what am I do with my life, there's a lot to think about. Where we're at, it's not like there's, jobs left and right. It was like nursing, mining. Of course, we had like one doctor in the town, so it's very small.
What area was it that you grew up in?
Oh,
What?
yeah. So yeah, I grew up, I was born in Upper Michigan, but we moved to Minnesota when I was about, I think, 3 or 4 years old.
Okay, so
And then
Minnesota
my,
is where you lived, where it was in this area that you're speaking
yep,
of. Okay.
yep, yep.
Hmm.
Northern Minnesota, up by the Iron Range.
Okay. So very, very, very cold in the winter.
Yes. Very cold, don't you know now?
So were you a Minnesota Vikings fan?
Yeah, I was. I was more of a North Star hockey fan that,
Okay.
later on down the road, they got purchased by the Dallas. They turned into the Dallas Stars, but
Okay.
they were called the North Stars when I was in Minnesota.
Okay. So from that childhood, um, you then evolved into the military versus, I'm assuming, versus going off to college. Did you enlist then and decide you wanted to serve the country?
So how that happened? Okay, so when I graduated high school, actually, a recruiter actually came and visited us before, I graduated, and I didn't have interest in it, but my brother was the one that kind of said, you can go see the world, just see what the world is like before you actually make a decision on what you really want to do, So I had my brother kind of like guiding me that to the military side. But the thing is, why I joined the military is my college, it was all booked up, right? I couldn't even get
Wow.
into a vocational school. So I would have had to wait a whole year. So I was like, I'm not going to sit around waiting, to start my life. So I said, you know what? 2 years in the Army can't be that bad. So I enlisted as a cook. And when I was going through the cook training, I had some folks come from the Ranger Battalion saying, "Hey, you want to be all hardcore and jump out airplanes and cook for generals and stuff?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I want to do." So when I was in the middle of my cook training, I volunteered to be a ranger. So from going to cook school, I had to go to airborne school, and then I went to Ranger introduction program to actually see if you're actually mentally tough, physically fit to get into the Ranger Battalion. I just made it. I didn't drown, so I made it.
Well, after living, like you said, in the wilderness and in certain ways of Minnesota and outdoorsy, you
Hmm.
were you were probably a pretty tough little young guy that could withstand a lot of physical endurance. That you weren't a couch potato, in other words, just sitting around watching TV all day.
I'd have to say to that, Jill, I have good army feet,
Good
so
army
I can
feet.
walk for miles. Yeah.
We can walk for miles. So you went into the services, and then tell us when you got out of the service. Then you decided to go. You moved from where did you serve? Where were some of the places you were stationed during that time, Robert?
Yep. Yeah. So through all the training, I was training for almost a whole, I think it's about a year and a half before I actually got to my first duty station. So I was in the Carolinas all the way down to Fort Benning, Georgia, in all my training. And then when I actually got to my first duty station, it was Fort Lewis, Washington, where I was stationed at the 2nd Ranger Battalion there for
Mm-hmm.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
during that time,
which place did you like the most? North Carolinas, Georgia, or Washington?
Washington,
Yeah.
when I got off the airplane in South Carolina to go through basic training, I felt like I was not acclimated to the heat. It's like I felt like I was melting like butter when I got off the airplane.
Kind of like the Wicked Witch in Dorothy, the ox. I'm melting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead. So you got to Washington and then continue on.
Yeah, so when I got to Washington, is my first initial, I would say, experience to the real Army life, which was, I mean, the Rangers is pretty hardcore. I would say, I don't know how to relate to anything in the civilian world. I would say it's like being a football player every day and taking the hits. It's a tough life. It's an elite infantry group, so being there as a cook, had to be on my feet all day long, and then at the same time, I had to go do infantry stuff as well. So imagine being on your feet all day long and say, "Okay, hey, let's go walk for a 12-mile road march." I mean, you're like, your feet are sore towards the end of the day.
Yeah. So then where did you get to go where you started being able to jump out of planes?
Actually, that was in when I was going through Fort Benning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the school. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go through that training first, and then the second range. All the units I was in were airborne units.
Okay.
So every month you had to jump at least once to stay qualified as a airborne paratrooper.
So tell me about that first jump.
I remember it very well. It
I
was
bet you do.
yeah, I was three men from the colonel of the whole base, and all I remember is like he hooks up and he starts pretending like he's all nervous. He's like, "Oh, I'm all scared," and stuff like that. And he starts laughing at everybody. He says, "You better hook up, or your chute's not going to open up. You're going to become a dirt dart if you don't hook up." So I remember hooking up. I'm like, I'm just shaking. I'm like, I'm trying to make sure the lanyard's in there, and I'm like this whole way. And then when the door opened up and that fresh air hits you, just like, this is really happening. I'm really going out the door. There's no turning back, and it was just, it's like time just stood still. It's like there's no sound. And I just remember going out the door, and then all of a sudden, just this loud, just like this, when the wind, hits, when you come out and you hit the wind, I was just like, wow, this is, and then when I started looking around, I'm like, this is pretty cool. So
Now,
it was
when you
very,
go on your first jump, is someone with you? Are you on someone's back on that jump? On your
yeah.
first jump?
So
Yeah.
yeah. So before you actually go on your first jump, you get trained to get used to it, right? So you go from jumping like off like maybe 4 feet off of a level. So when you land right, and then if you're lucky, you get a chance to actually drop from a 250-foot tower that drops you with a parachute. So you getting used to the height, But for the folks that never got to do the towers, going straight in an airplane, those are the ones that are the most nervous because they haven't felt, the height of it. But what's interesting is if I stand up 4 feet, I'm scared of heights. But if I jump on an airplane, I'm just fine.
That's great. So they didn't have to push you out of the plane. You actually were okay with making that first leap of faith, huh?
You're in they call it a stick, which is about 30 paratroopers, right? So there's no, not going out the door because the guy behind you will push you out the door,
Right.
right? So, and you're basically close to everybody when you go out. So you're like, boop, 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 when you go out the door.
Oh gosh. So all right, so let's transition. So you're in the service and now
Mhm.
and now you end up in the dining room facility. This was in Washington. And then how did you
Mhm.
get from did you served just for 2 years or were you in longer than 2 years then?
I served the Army just about 10 years.
Oh, 10.
So
Oh,
I
that long.
had, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I went from Fort Lewis, Washington, and then what happened was in that time I actually met my wife, and we
Mhm.
got married when I was in Washington, and then I got orders, and I was able to pick which the next duty station I go to. So I picked Japan because my wife was from Japan,
Mhm.
and so we went overseas, and then my last tour before I got out of the service was in the 82nd Airborne, which is in North Carolina.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that transition from from Washington State to Japan.
Right.
What was that like? That had to be a culture shock for you.
It was a culture shock. And what was unique is that where my wife was from, the unique story. So I requested to reenlist, we got married and I picked Japan, and on my orders, it said Okijawa, right? So she's like, Okijawa, that must be like up in mainland Japan or something. She didn't know where that was. And what they did is they misspelled my orders, right? Well, what it was Okinawa, which that's where my wife was from. So when we went back, and when we actually went overseas, we were in Narita Airport, and she's like, where are we going now? And I said, I looked on I got the tickets. It says, it says Okinawa. She goes, Okinawa? I'm from Okinawa. I'm like, going home, you know.
Wow. So she was really happy.
She was excited. She called her parents from Narita Airport saying, "Hey, we're actually coming to Okinawa," and they're all excited. So the whole family, when we came into the Okinawa airport, all I can say is that her family was the most people in the airport. And I remember my sponsors are, holding up a sign saying, Private Carlisle. They're like, who are all these people? It seems like they know you. And I said, I guess this is my family. And it's like over 100 people there.
And that was that the first time you met your in-laws then?
Yep. Very
Wow.
first time at the airport, at the Naha airport.
Wow. How long had you guys been married before this took place then?
We got married in 1995. Yeah, 95 we got married.
And then when did you go to
So
Japan? Is that same year or was it?
we went to Japan in 97.
So you had been married 2 years before you even knew your in-laws, huh? Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So how long were you there then in Japan?
Uh, we got out there in 97 and then we left in 2007.
Oh, good. So her parents and stuff got a chance to be grandparents because the children came along then,
Yep.
correct? Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Yep.
So then after Japan, then where did you end up going from there?
So Japan, I had 8 months. I made the decision to get out and work for the military as a civilian. So there was a position that opened up in the food service, right?
Hmm.
So it was the DLA, Defense Logistic Agency, which basically handled all the dining facilities and all the galleys and all the Navy ships and stuff. So there was a contract there that I was still in the service, okay? And this government contractor said, "Hey, would you be interested in working for this company? It'd be a civilian contract." And I said, "Absolutely. What does it pay?" And he said, "Well, we can disclose that later, but all I can say, I was making 3 times as much that I was making in the service." So I made the decision to get out and work that contract. So I had 8 months left on my contract. I had to PCS, which means move from my current duty station to a new duty station. And then I finished up my tour there, which was in the 82nd Airborne. Once I finished up, I got on actually I road tripped from the Carolinas up to Minnesota. And then from Minnesota, I went to California to get the on-job training. And then from there, drove right back to Minnesota and then got on a plane and went back to Okinawa and
Wow.
then worked a government contract. Yep.
In Japan. You did this
Yep.
in Japan. Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing. So then from there, where did you go from that contracted position that you were in?
Yep. So the company that I was working for said, "Hey, we have other places. If you want to, if you're getting bored, we can move you. If you want to go to Guam, we got positions in Guam." So I went out to Guam, checked it out, brought the whole family out there. He said, we're going from a teeny island to a smaller island. I was like, I don't want to get claustrophobic. So they said, well, what about Hawaii? I said, ooh, there we're talking. I said, sign me up for that. So it
Okay.
was a 5-year contract. It was a 5-year contract. And then
Hmm.
from there, when that contract was coming up, they said, hey, we would like to move you to California. And I said, my kids are really entrenched in over here. I don't want to pull them out of their school. We're all, we're all good here. And they said, well, we don't have anything, we need to move you, and I elected not to. So I had to go look for something else to do. So I looked around, and right next to our housing development was a brand new shopping mall that was coming in with Safeway and Ross, Cost You Less, and so I was thinking, yeah, I may put up a little pizza shop over there. So that's a whole nother story how that happened.
Yeah.
But I went headfirst into the restaurant business after I left in 2013,
Hmm.
and 2013 to 2017, I ran a full-scale Italian restaurant.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. So, when you were in Hawaii, did you get yourself out on a surfboard and learn how to surf?
I did.
Did
I
you?
had
Did you?
many. I had everybody had a surfboard, and this is the thing. I I got on a surfboard twice, but the best time that I had was actually bodyboarding. So
Mm.
I call it upgrading to, being on your stomach and then hitting those waves is way more fun. It's easier to do too. So if anybody goes to Hawaii,
Then standing up, right? Then standing up.
right? Yeah, standing up that's a sport. I mean, you got to have a lot of balance. You got to really know what you're doing, or else you're going to get tumbled in the wave.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how people have managed to do that for years. I dated a guy in San Diego for like almost 10 years who was a diehard surfer, and he grew up in Guam, lived in San Diego, and he's married now, and he lives in Costa Rica. And I think he just turned, I'm 60, I think he's like 71 or 72, and he still surfs in his 70s almost every day, goes to the ocean and surfs. And he's called the crusty old surfers is what they're called. And so once a surfer, I guess always a surfer. So the restaurant business, then I tell us a little bit about it. It's a tough business, and so did you get to a place that you burnt out in that business, or where did you end up then after that to lead you back to Minnesota?
That's a great That's a great analogy. Yes, I think doing something for too long and something that just, it's like the daily grind, eventually you get burnt out. I learned so much running my own business, especially the restaurant business, with how many, moving parts need to work together in order to make it work, right? And I mean, I was in business for almost 5 years before I threw in the towel. It got to the point where it was really like, this is the best analogy. So one of the salespeople from one of the food distributors said, the restaurant business is like a Venus flytrap. Okay, once you land on it, it's like this: the clock starts ticking, and you got to figure out how to get out, because once it closes it like that, you're totally consumed. And I felt I was like right here where it was getting ready to close its whole mouth, and I apologized to everybody. I said, I thought this was the best thing that's happened. I learned a lot, but I'm not going to sacrifice my family on this. So
Well,
I turned the keys in.
it really does, because my grandfather ran a Greek restaurant when I was a kid growing up, and when my mother was a child growing up, I should say, and it was 24/7, and he ended up
Yep.
having to put my mom and my uncle in a boarding home because they were never home. And
Yeah.
you get to a place where you don't have time to be with your family unless your family actually wants to live in the restaurant with you and work. There's just no time for family when you're a
Right.
restaurant owner, unless you become a multi-million dollar restaurant owner, and then you can have managers run it and you can stay home. But to be in the actual restaurant, it's 24/7 all the time, nonstop.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. It was. I got to tell you this, because of it has actually made me more stronger with how I make business decisions, because I mean there's so many variables that can happen. I mean, like the dishwasher doesn't show up. Well, that could cost you a lot of money in that day if the dishwasher's not there, and then it just makes the operation really difficult to operate. So everybody, the thing is that that was like my family, and I treated everybody like family in there. It just, the thing is, when the big box stores came in, I had CPK come in, I had Buffalo Wild Wings. They took all of my best managers, my best employees. They paid them more than I could afford. I was just like, wow. I'm like, what do I do? I mean, and the thing is even if it is a franchise, it's still your business.
Yeah.
You just got to work in those parameters of that franchise. But it was a good run, and from there led me into what I'm doing now. Is I was thinking, what did I do wrong, or what was it I wasn't doing right? And I realized I wasn't marketing my business.
Mm-hmm. So how then did you transition from food services that you'd been in for years into
Hmm.
the digital world and most notably virtual reality?
Right. So this is what happened. So when I call myself retiring from the restaurant business, I had to retire from it. So retiring from that, we moved from Hawaii because it just wasn't in our budget anymore. We moved to Portland, and my oldest son was just getting on his feet. So he got a job down at one of the 4-star hotels downtown Portland, and worked there. So we kind of like migrated with my youngest son, or my oldest son, so he could get on his feet. And then we just maintained, we had scraped together all of our savings and stuff. My wife worked a part-time job, and I was saying, what is the next thing for me? And I went for a short stint. I went and worked for Cisco Food Service because I thought that's my forte, but I realized I needed to get out of the food service. I did it for so many years. I was just burnt out, and they could even say, man, you know your stuff, but you're just burnt out. You're like, you go in, exactly what to say to everybody, but we can tell that you're burnt out. We need someone that's, all excited and I was just like, well, I know what's going on behind the scenes, and I know how to talk to these owners. So I kind of like, what, totally understand. So from there, for another short little stint, I went to go work for a company called Register Tape that puts the coupons on the back of the register tape at the Safeways and the big box stores
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And I got a phone call from one of my friends from Hawaii that was actually a VP of a food distributor out there. He says, "Hey, what you doing?" I said, I'm just trying to figure out life." And he was telling me, he says, "Well, the world's going digital." I said, "I agree with you." So he says, "You should check out this Bluetooth marketing thing that I'm into." And so I looked at that, did that for a whole year. Actually, one of my biggest accounts was the Hilton group, the hotel group. So I was doing well with them. And then, that technology went away. Technology is always changing. And I realized that if you are going to market to somebody and you are going to have a conversation, what is the best way to do it? Calling someone up on the phone, I mean, that's kind of like the old school way, but that is probably the best way. But I was thinking, how do I do something that's not so intrusive, right? Where you don't feel like you're bothering someone. So I was looking at, how do I link? If I sent you an ad and you pressed it, what would be the next step? And I was thinking, myself in a digital avatar saying, "Hi, how can I help you?" And be organic. And that has led me into the virtual reality world now, where I design avatars, build worlds for businesses, and it's still a new concept, but I see this being the next big thing. I mean, we're already in the digital world. I mean, right now we're on a Zoom. This is the digital world, and people are looking. I think people are looking for new ways to connect more effectively and efficiently.
Wow, that's amazing. There's one more part of your story that I know of you. What about the music industry?
Yes, I am a musician. From when I was in high school, I used to play actually I used to play trombone and I couldn't hit the seventh, so the teacher says, "Well, you want to play the bass drum?" I said, I guess so." So then I played the bass drum, and then I said, "Well, I'd rather play the drum set." So I became by 12th grade, I was actually the main drum set player in the band, and then from there, I've been in numerous bands, country bands, rock bands, punk bands, and but I can say now I have retired from being a rock star because this is where I rock star now.
Well, I remember looking at one point on your Facebook page of old pictures of you, and I was like, that can't be Robert. That cannot be Robert. You were definitely a punk rocker, and you were creating some CDs and stuff, weren't you, in Japan, playing it in some
Yeah,
Japanese bars and stuff?
yeah, yeah. They're actually American bars that we played in.
Hmm.
So on the weekends, my wife was trust me enough that I could go out and play on the weekends, and I was a good boy. And but we would play these American clubs where, of course, the service members need some place to, unwind and relax, and so we became basically a cover band, a house band, for about 3 years with at this one bar that was a retired Air Force person there, and then during that time, we started getting popular, and then the local clubs, you started playing in those, and then next thing you know, we have people asking and say, "Hey, you want to be on Toshiba EMI records and stuff like that?" I was like, whoa, okay, we're that good, sure, why not?
Wow.
So we're on a bunch of compilation CDs with local Japanese bands, and we got to tour around Japan a little bit. It was fun.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, take us a little bit towards the end here, and I'm familiar with the term, but the audience may not. If you can talk a little bit about the platform that you utilize right now, currently, and
Hmm.
how you can introduce people that might be listening and say, for the audience out there, if you've never experienced virtual reality, you got to reach out to Robert because he's got some amazing things that he'll show you that will really blow your mind. And so, the platform that you use right now, if you can tell us a little bit about that, Robert.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's multiple platforms out there that are coming out, but I was looking for the best platform, and they are actually, if you haven't seen the movie Ready Player One, they actually collaborate with Steven Spielberg on a lot of the content in there. So, but the platform that I'm using, it's called Sansar, and they are a premier event coordinating virtual reality solution. So what we've done is we basically taken the game out of the game, and we want to bring business in there. We want people to set up storefronts. We want people, if they're like authors of books, get up on stages and feel like that connectedness. So what we realized during the COVID, it really it drove people looking for other creative solutions besides Zooms and stuff. So it's very engaging. It's very immersive. The cool thing is you don't need to have a VR headset to experience it. You can actually do it right from your PC desktop. And I just think it's the next gen. I mean, we're going from I think with AI, artificial intelligence integrated with avatars and stuff, you're going to see in the next 5 years so many new digital solutions come out that's just going to blow your mind.
Hmm.
So what
Well,
what we're doing here with Mhm.
yeah, I was going to say what when I first met you, you introduced me to it, and I'm not a techie girl at all, even though I sold technology, but I'm not very techie. And I remember going in there, and you had suggested that I just buy a really good headset with a
Yep.
speaker, and from there too, what I think is really interesting, besides the virtual reality, that I want to just kind of go back to the virtual reality in a second, is Robert. When I first met him, he helped me. I wanted to do podcasts, and he helped me to set up my very first intro and outro video for this podcast show. So the intro videos that you see and the outro, Robert helped me on, and then I just did my very first online virtual Zoom event with 100 people. And Robert was kind enough to come on and be in the background for me for tech support in case anything went wrong. And then he was able to help me fully edit that recording, which was 5.5 hours long. So Robert's very multi-talented to setting up video editing and really understanding production and how podcasts work. He's phenomenal at that. But his passion truly is in this virtual world. That's like one side thing he does. And so Robert I had the privilege when I first met him, where he brought me into Sanzar and showed me around to an unbelievable bar, like a virtual reality bar. He took me to like a nightclub, and then we went to the beach, a virtual reality beach, and with the sand and the fire pit and s'mores, and then we had an opportunity then to go to a trade show where they had unbelievable booths where you could sell your goods and services, and then a huge stage with a band. And I mean, the sky was the limit. So talk a little bit, Robert, to the audience about how you have a passion for building these virtual worlds and custom designing them for corporations where they can have any type of an event that they choose and have it branded as their own world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing that I ask people is like, what is it that you're not able to do, because of COVID, or, what challenges are you having in your business right now? Is it just you're needing a new?
Yeah, and even, excuse me to interrupt you for right now, even for those, COVID's going to end hopefully one day. So even across the world, if you have you have corporation that's worldwide, international, you got employees in India, employees in Japan, employees in Hawaii, employees throughout the United States. So like bring it together so that we're not just stuck in this world of COVID.
Right. So exactly. So things will change. They will get better. I believe that using a virtual reality solution is going to connect the remote world. Right now, there's so many remote jobs out there that you won't believe. But the thing is those remote jobs still have to have some sort of accountability. So using like a virtual reality world actually creates a lot of accountability, a lot of analytics in there. But where I think that the most impact that people will get from the virtual reality world is having that virtual presence, like you're actually next to somebody in the world. That's I gotta tell you this, the aha moment that I had is when I first went into this world and running, using my PC desktop. I didn't have a VR headset at the time. I was going in there and I went up to this other avatar. It was someone from the UK, and I thought it was just like a game playing NPC or whatever. It's like not a real person. They said, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "Wait, hang on. Are you real? Is this like an artificial intelligence?" That is a real person in an avatar. It just looks so, real, with the way they spoke and, how it moved the avatar around.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. So
and what's nice about that too, I'm going to just
yeah.
because of the international time zones, you've got like it's 5 o'clock Central Standard Time in the United States, and it might be 4 o'clock in the morning in India, whatever. And I think what's great about what you're presenting here, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is when you can show up as an avatar. You could be laying in your pajamas in your bed doing a business call, and nobody has any clue that you're in your pajamas in your bed, because the avatar is going to show up with the way you create your avatar. So what's great about it, especially women, if you're listening in, who hate to be on a Zoom because their hair might not look good, or you don't have your makeup on yet, or whatever. Yep. Or you got to just jump out of the shower and you slept late, and you got to jump out of the shower and get to a corporate meeting in New York City, and you got 10 minutes to go, and you just throw on your robe and go, "Oh my gosh, I got to go live." So you can go live as an avatar, and nobody knows what you're wearing.
Absolutely. That's just another perk of it. Where we've really got the most interest, Jill, is the education side. So all of our demos that we do now everybody's saying, "Hey, I want to build a course, or I want to do demonstrations. I want to be able to train my employees." And I just see that as a ever forgiving solution. It's like, say for instance, if you're, not that I've dealt with any firefighters yet, but imagine actually using the solution to train how to fight a fire. And it's the safest way, but it gives you that ability to see and hear what it would actually be. And what's interesting is even though there's not a smell sensor, it's like some of the things, it's like your brain starts tricking you, saying, "Oh, well, you should be smelling pizza because there's a pizza in front of it." I'm just saying this right now. Once you go in virtual reality and totally immerse yourself, it's like your body already engages all the other senses that it already has.
Well,
With the virtual
we're
reality.
already 2021 here. We're into almost April. And I know
Hmm.
corporations, because I was in sales for so many years, put together their marketing budgets. And so I think if marketing departments or CEOs of companies, vice presidents might be listening to this podcast today, reach out to Robert, because I really do believe that when you put your budget together, that your budget must consist of a world that you create for your corporation, because this will be the meetings of the future. And so, if you do not now budget for it so that you have your world built, because it could take several months to build worlds, and the more known that Robert gets, the busier it will be. So I would definitely, I'm going to show people your bio at this time, Robert, and he's
Hmm.
got these two Facebook pages, and he can be contacted there. He's got on the Facebook page his calendar that you could schedule a business connection meeting with him for a needs assessment, so he can assess your needs to see what it is that your corporation does, how you do corporate meetings, so that he could um, get you in to start the evaluation of building a virtual reality world. If you want to expound any more on that, Robert.
Yeah, it definitely starts with a needs assessment. So, the virtual reality worlds, it's like it's happening now, and the thing is, if you get into it now, you'll better understand it, because there is, we do provide a concierge service to actually train the trainers. So if you are a enterprise account and you want to set up, stages or conference rooms and stuff like that, you definitely need to have a service to help train the other folks on how to utilize it. So yeah, definitely reach out to me if you just want to get more information on it, get a demo and see what it's all about. Try it before you buy it. The worlds are, you can jump in there and run around with an avatar and check it out for yourself. And then if you want to use it in business, we're here to help you out on that.
Awesome. And in closing, Robert, because you're into digital stuff, if someone told you, we're kind of in a world now where a lot of censorship's been happening, unfortunately. So if someone censored us completely and said, "Okay, you only get 2 apps on your cell phone, and all your other apps have to go away," which 2 apps do you feel like you really need right now?
The app that I use mostly is called Discord.
Okay.
Okay. And it's an app it's a full communication app. It doesn't have ads on there, and it's a fantastic tool for teaching, for demonstrating. I do like Zooms. Zooms are still, a great platform to get a visual out. But Discord and I would say Sansar. Those are the 2 apps I would have on my phone.
Awesome. And in closing, you've told us a lot today, so we may have used them all up, but is there one fun fact you'd like to share about yourself that we haven't talked about? Any fun fact?
Fun
Or
facts. Wow,
did
you
or
put me on you
or
put me on the stage
or
here.
did we give them all, between jumping from airplanes,
Uh,
playing in rock and roll bands?
yeah. Fun fact about me, I love the outdoors. I mean, you can tell just by the beginning of my story. I love being outside. I love fishing. That's, I wish that could actually be a career, fishing.
Well,
I'd jump on that in a heartbeat.
it can be. Moved to Branson. We've got all these lakes here, and there's a lot. It's funny you say that, because living in Branson, I've come to realize, living in Branson from Chicago, when you want a contractor to come and do something at your home. Everybody starts, 90% of them don't work on Monday. Hardly anyone works on Friday. So your window is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you see on their Facebook pages, they're all fishing. So it's their window. They start work at 5 a.m., done at 3 o'clock, and they're off to the lake Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So you got a short window if you need anything done, if you want a painter or if you want a carpenter, or suddenly if you want something done, you only got 3 days a week up until 3 in the afternoon, and then forget it.
That sounds just like living in the islands.
Yeah.
No different.
Yeah, so you'll have to come to Branson. You'll have to, when you guys burn out on Portland, you got to have to check it out here. And this lake here, actually, behind me is a catch and release lake. We have 2 of them on our property. So,
Nice.
Well, thank you for joining us. And everyone, please go to the YouTube channel when this is posted. It'll be on my website as well and on my Facebook pages to reach out to Robert. And Robert, it's such a privilege to know you and have you on the Connection Show.
Thank you, Jill. Likewise.
Thanks. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye now. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. Let's restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Enhance connection in our online connection circles. A place to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Click on the Books Podcast tab, and then the Connection Circles drop down. On the pop-up, join our Connection Circles Facebook group. Our circles meet from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Share story, topics, and laughter with men and women. To learn more about Connection Circles, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show, and have a great day.